I am starting by drawing a few angled lines, trying to cover the whole reference with as few strokes as possible to capture the subject silhouette. I think this process is also known as blocking in or simplifying the subject. Ignoring the complex shapes in the hair and the details of the ears, the jaw, the eyes, this block-in will help establish better proportions later on. I'm also trying to make the judgment of how big or small the lines are, what distance they are from each other, or what angle they fall at, etc. This helps me improve the proportions. Here I am blocking in the shape of the hair and adding smaller lines to make it look closer to the reference. These lines are super important because if I get them wrong now, the details in the rendering will look off no matter how carefully I do them, so I'm taking my time here. I am marking where the facial features will go. Mistakes at this stage are easy to fix since we can just erase and correct them. I have also decided to add in the basic shapes for the nose and the lips. This gives me an overall idea of how the drawing will look with the features in place. I am now starting to add some shadow shapes as well, so I will have a guide when I move into shading. The eye socket can be simplified into a diamond or a tilted rectangle, rhombus like shape. I'm also comparing its proportion with the other shapes already drawn. I was kind of rushing through the drawing stage. I think I should have spent some more time making corrections before moving forward with this blocking. Patience is something I really lacked here, and this part is always tough for me. I am adding more details, first with straight lines for the bigger shapes, and then with curves for the smaller ones. I'm also trying to see the shape of the hair, which for me is one of the hardest part of a drawing. While adding in the details in the eye, I am following the same method to check proportions inside the eye socket to place them correctly and then matching it with the reference to see how I did or if there is any room for correction. Lines to simplify the neck and the shoulders. I did not realize at that time that part of the drawing is not being captured. I'll make sure this does not happen again. That portions, however, was not very important, although I will correct that later in the video. The shapes in the hair were so hard to identify that I ended up making random shapes instead. I struggle a lot with hair, so I will learn it separately in another practice session, focusing entirely on the hair. With the lines as guide, I am drawing the eye, comparing and checking the proportions. The aim is to draw as accurately as possible, mainly to practice proportions and lines, and then we will try to draw subject with the help of forms afterwards so we understand their structure as well. I'm also adding the details here on the nose and the mouth region, giving it some curve on the lips and the nose bridge because it's not entirely straight. I'm also including the shadow shapes where they are prominent enough. For example, below the lips and on the nose, etc. Observing where the shadows on the neck of the muscles and the voice box form, I'm carefully checking and drawing them too. All of this had me erasing and redrawing a lot. Even then, there were many things I couldn't see at that time while drawing that I'm able to spot while editing it. I remember drawing the ears was very hard for me at some point. I think I have started to get the hang of it in a way that it has become easier to identify the shapes with constant practice. After adding some more random shapes to the hair and more minute details in the art, I'm going to erase the guidelines that we made earlier, the block-ins, and make it ready for the next step, which is our values. I'm going over this drawing once again, making corrections if I see any mistakes, because after this, our proportions will be permanent. I'm also smoothing the lines in some of these places so it looks better. In my opinion, the drawing does not look exactly like the reference, but I think it looks good. In regards to shading or values, I must inform you that my values still need a lot of work and my shading techniques are quite poor as well. But still, I couldn't stop myself from rendering it, so I put in the values too with all the knowledge that I have about them. So I am going to speed up that section as this practice was specially dedicated to proportions. Having removed the sketch lines or guides, our drawing is now finalized and is now ready to move to the next stage, which is shading. For values, I started with flat values first in the whole drawing, then to shade one area completely and then move on to another one and so on, because I think that would really make my values judgment weak. So I am sticking to applying the flat values throughout the drawing. I am seeing where there are dark places in the reference, like the eye socket area, bottom of the nose, upper lip, the shadow of the lower lip, shadow on the neck and hair, the places that are very common. I wanted to completely cover the area with graphite, not leaving any paper behind, and softly blending it without any help. But I quickly gave up the idea when I saw big spaces like that of the shadow on the face, the cheek area, and switched to hatching and cross hatching on those areas because, like I explained before, values and shading is a little difficult for me at the moment. So, blending the graphite that well is something I am unable to achieve as of now. So, I will stick to the hatching and cross hatching method for now. I am observing the difference in different values, how much different they look from each other, where I think the light values are, or the middle values, or the dark values should be. So when it is done, it has some depth. It looks 3D like the reference does. The rest is a highly sped up version of the shading after flat values. The blending is a little off, but this is how I was able to shade in the practice. So these are my results and what I learned. I boosted the contrast in my drawing so that it is easier to see. This practice taught me a lot. I think patience is the next thing I need to work on. Let me know your thoughts on this study if you have any feedback or anything that you'd like to share in the comment section. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.